Hello everyone, this is Pastor Jay at the City of Grace here in Mobile, Alabama, and this is your 5-minute worship recap. Consider this your midweek booster shot from our lesson from this past week under the teaching of Dr. Charles Dent. This is not meant to replace our lesson, but it's just to give you a reminder of the things that we talked about. Please click the link below to see the full message because you don't want to miss out on this powerful teaching. Really quickly, we're going to get into what we talked about this past Sunday. We're completing our series, Grace Matters, Part 5. And in it, we were talking from Paul's letter to the church at Philippi, Philippians 4, verses 4 through 6. And they read, "Rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say, rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to all men, for the Lord is at hand. Be anxious for nothing, but in all things, through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." And so this past Sunday, Dr. Dent gave us 3 main aspects of grace and rejoicing in grace for getting through these times. And the first thing he says is rejoice shifts our thinking. It helps us not to think and worry about everything that's going on. Now, we do need to be concerned. We need to be prepared. We need to be prayed up. But more than anything, we need to trust in God and we need to rejoice in the God of our salvation. A lot of times we want the blessings of God, but we forget that with God comes his blessings. We want the favor, but we don't always want the giver of the favor. And so when we rejoice, when we choose to rejoice in the Lord, it shifts our thinking. The second thing it does is it refreshes us. It gives us a refreshing in our hearts and in our minds. And then the third thing that rejoicing does, it encourages others. People are watching to see how believers are handling the COVID-19 crisis. The world is looking to the church to see how we're going to handle these times. And so it is up to us to rejoice in the Lord and to have a joy in our heart, because joy is a byproduct of our relationship with Christ. When we're able to have peace with God, then we have a joy. And Nehemiah said that the joy of the Lord is our strength. And so the second thing he said is that we must express gratitude, because grace does not take away God's glory. We must have an attitude of gratitude, not for the stuff. You know, a lot of people say, I'm grateful that we have a home. I'm grateful that we haven't been affected personally by this crisis, that it hasn't attacked our home, for our health and our strength and our stuff. And that's great. We should be grateful. But I'm grateful for Jesus Christ. Because with Jesus Christ comes the protection. It comes the provision. It comes the great physician, the healing. It comes by having Jesus. It's not just about the blessings, but it's about the blesser. And so when we have Christ, we have everything that comes with Christ. The last thing he talked about is praying with thanksgiving. Paul says, be anxious for nothing, but in all things, through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. See, God is not a genie. It is not about rubbing a magic lamp or saying a magic incantation and getting the desires of our heart. Prayer reveals the contents of our hearts, and then God aligns our will with his, but we must first surrender that will. And when we choose to have gratitude, we silence the voices, all of the other voices that would come to interfere with God's grace. The Holy Spirit is the Spirit of grace. And so if we say that we are people of grace, we're under the teaching of the Holy Spirit, which tells us to rejoice in all things, to give thanks for all things, in all situations. So there's our 5-minute recap. I pray that this has blessed you. And look, if the teaching of Dr. Dent, if the teaching of the City of Grace, if anything that we do bless you, please consider being a blessing to us. We know that these are difficult times. We know that there's a lot going on in the world right now. And we're trying to be a beacon of light. We're trying to be a blessing to our community, to families, to those who can't necessarily get out of the house and come to the church, especially during this time. And so would you please consider sowing a seed into the city? Please click our link below to give. God bless you. May God keep you. Be safe.